Welcome to EasyEuge, the channel to help you to learn maths super easy, super fast. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to work out the least common denominator to make working with fractions easier. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click like on this video. And make sure that you watch all the way through to the end for question of the day. Let's take an example where we have to add a half and a quarter. So how do we do it? The one thing to notice about the half and the quarter is that the number on the bottom of each fraction is different. So the half has a 2 on the bottom and the quarter has a 4 on the bottom. So when the number on the bottom is different, these are called unlike fractions because the denominator is different. It's not like. So the denominator is the number on the bottom of each fraction. So that's a denominator there of 2 and that's a denominator of 4. And the number on the top is called the numerator. So if we're adding or subtracting, we need the denominators, they're the numbers on the bottom, to be the same before we can do the add or the subtract. So if we took a circle and we divided it in half and divided it in half again, dividing it into quarters, if I was to work this out graphically, a half of this cake, if this was a cake, a half would be all of this part and all of this part. So that's half of the cake. That's represented by this half. If I added on the quarter, let me shade in the quarter part, you can clearly see that we have 1, 2, 3 quarters and the answer is 3 quarters. So let me show you how to do that using maths. So here it is, here's the half and here's the quarter. Let's work it out on paper. We know the answer is 3 quarters, but let's prove that we can get 3 quarters as our answer. I'm going to show you two methods. Method 1 is called the common denominator and method 2 is the least common denominator, and you'll see the value of this later in the video. So what is common denominator? Let's take that fraction again, 1 over 2, that's a half, and we'll add on 1 over 4. 1 half plus 1 quarter. We need the numbers on the bottom to be the same in order to add them. So to find the common denominator, if we multiply all of this fraction by the 4 and all of this fraction by the 2, we can find a common denominator. So let's take the half and we'll multiply that half by the number on the bottom of this fraction. So if we multiply that by 4 over 4, multiplying by 4 over 4 is the same thing as multiplying by 1. It doesn't actually change the value of the fraction. And now let's add on that 1 quarter, but this time we multiply this one by 2 over 2. Let's write that down, 2 over 2, and let's work it out. Okay, so 4 by 1 is 4, 4 by 2 is 8, and let's add on 2 by 1 is 2, and 2 by 4 is 8. Now both fractions are like because the number on the bottom, the denominator, is the same. So to add fractions, you simply add the top numbers. 4 plus 2 is 6, and the answer is all over 8, 6 over 8. Now in my previous video, how to simplify fractions, let's look for an opportunity to simplify 6 over 8. So what can we do to the top number that we can also do to the bottom number? And I think we can divide the top and the bottom by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So 6 over 8 is the same as 3 over 4. And if you remember, that's the answer from our previous example. Let's look at least common denominator now. So if we write down the question, we're going to look at the fraction in a little bit of a different way. So let's look at it for a moment. We have a half and we have a quarter. Rather than just multiplying all this fraction by 4 and all this fraction by 2, why don't we look to see if we have a similarity between the two? And you can see that 4 is 2 2's. Okay, so why don't we turn the half into something over 4? So the bottom numbers are the same. So what can we do to this half to turn it into something over 4? Let's multiply that by 2 over 2. Okay, and then we add on the 1 over 4. And that should look like 2 by 1 is 2, 2 by 2 is 4. So a half is the same as 2 quarters. And that feels right, because the value of the fraction is the same. That is still a half. It's just we're making it look different, so the number on the bottom is 4. Now let's add on our 1 over 4. And the rule of adding fractions is you just add the top numbers if the numbers on the bottom are the same. So 2 plus 1 is 3, and that's all over 4. And we didn't need to simplify. Now method 1, which is the common denominator, gave us an answer of 3 quarters. Method 2, least common denominator, gave us the same answer. So both methods give us the same answer, and you'll see the benefit of least common denominator as we move through the next few examples. One third plus 1/6. Let's do that common denominator method again. So we'd start by writing down the equation, which is 1 over 3 plus 1 over 6. So for a common denominator, let's just multiply all of this fraction by 6 over 6, and then multiply all of this fraction by 3 over 3 to make the bottom numbers like. Okay, so let's write down 1 over 3, and we multiply that by the bottom number, 6. But we'll make it 6 over 6, because that's the same thing as multiplying by 1. And let's add on the 1 over 6, that's this fraction, and we multiply by 3, but we make it 3 over 3, because that's the same as 1. And that looks like 6 times 1 is 6, and that goes on top. 3 times 6 is 18. That's that finished, and then we add on this fraction. 3 by 1 is 3, and 6 by 3 is 18. Now we have the numbers on the bottom the same, so they're like. So we can just simply add these fractions. 6 plus 3 is 9. And 18 is the bottom number, that's the denominator, so that stays as 18. And our answer is 9 over 18. So let's look for an opportunity to simplify. Is there anything we can do to the top number that we can also do to the bottom number? And let's divide the top and the bottom by 9. So 9 divided by 9 is 1. 18 divided by 9 is 2. So the answer to 1/3 plus 1/6 is a half. So we had a bit of simplifying to do, didn't we? And the number 18 started to look a bit big. So let's try least common denominator. So what we learned in the last example, before we dive in and just start multiplying the fractions by the denominator of the other fraction, let's look for similarities. What is the least common denominator? Can I turn that 3 into a 6? Could I do that? I think if I multiplied all of this by 2 over 2, I could make that something over 6. Let's give it a try. So what if I take that 1/3 and I multiply it by 2 over 2, and then I add on the 1 over 6, which is this part. So 2 by 1 is 2, 3 by 2 is 6, so 1/3 is the same as 2/6. And now let's simply add on my 1 over 6. The numbers on the bottom are the same, so we can now simply add. 2 plus 1 is 3. And 6 on the bottom, the answer is 3 over 6. And again, let's look for an opportunity to simplify. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 3/6 is the same as 1/2. And now you'll notice again, the answer is a half using the common denominator method and a half using least common denominator. Now with these simple fractions that we're adding, least common denominator is starting to look like a really helpful way. So let's look at one more example. One over 6 plus 2 over 9. On this occasion, I'm going to start with method 2, the least common denominator, and I'm going to do that first. Let's write down 1 over 6 plus 2 over 9. Now, I'd like to show you a little trick. How do you find the least common denominator of 6 and 9? So there's nothing immediately jumping out at me. 6 isn't a multiple of 9. 9's not a multiple of 6. So what should we do next? So I'd like to show you, if you just draw a little table on the side, okay, with a line down the middle and some boxes. I'm going to start with this bottom number 6. I'm going to put 6 in this box and add 6 to every box. So 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. 18 plus 6 is 24. 24 plus 6 is 30. Okay, I'll stop there. Let me take a look at the 9. I'll put the 9 in this box. 9 plus 9 is 18. Oh, look, we've got a match. 18 and 18 are a match. It's a bit like bingo. So I can turn the 6 into an 18 by multiplying it by 3. I can turn the 9 into an 18 by multiplying it by 2. So let's do that. Let's turn the 6 into an 18. And how would we do that? Let's take that fraction and we'll multiply it by 3 over 3, because 3 6s are 18. And then we'll add on the 2 over 9, but what will we multiply this by? How do we get 9 into 18? We'll multiply it by 2. So let's multiply all of this by 2 over 2, and let's work it out. 3 by 1 is 3, and 6 3s are 18. So 1 over 6 is the same as 3 over 18. 2 by 2 is 4. 9 by 2 is 18. And the answer then, you have a like denominator, so you just add the top numbers. 3 plus 4 is 7, and the bottom number is 18. And that's the least common denominator. We used a little table on the side to find out which number matches first. It's a really helpful trick and tip if you can't see immediately that 6 and 9 are all multiples of 18. Now let's take a look at method 1, which is the common denominator. So this is very simply multiplying each fraction by the bottom number of the other fraction. So let's write down 1 over 6 plus 2 over 9. So let's give this a try. 1 over 6, if we multiply this fraction by 9 over 9. Okay, and again, that's the same as multiplying by 1. And let's add on the 2 over 9 fraction, this fraction, but we multiply it by 6 over 6. There we go. Let's work all this out. 9 by 1 is 9. Okay, so it's 9 by 1 is 9. 6 9s, oh gosh, this is starting to get big. 6 9s are 54. Now this is a very strange looking fraction. But let's add on 2 by 6, which is 12, over 9 by 6, which is 54. Now we have 9 over 54 plus 12 over 54. 54 is the like denominator on both, so we can just add 9 plus 12 is 21 all over 54. Now this is the challenging part, because we need to simplify this fraction down, and this is what makes the common denominator method tricky. So what can we do to 21 and 54? I think we could try dividing the top and the bottom by the number 3. Now this is tremendously tricky. 21 over 3 and 54 over 3. What does that equal? 21 over 3 is 7 and 54 over 3. Gosh, that's a hard one. The answer is 18. There's a lot of opportunity to go wrong in this common denominator method. We've ended up with a really big number, 54, but we've ended up with the same answer, 7 over 18. But the least common denominator method was so much simpler and less steps and no need to simplify. And we got the same answer for both. And that's the least common denominator. So hopefully it'll help you when you're adding or subtracting fractions.